My choices. Why did you choose home hemodialysis?
I chose home treatment at that time, and the reason that I did that, for one thing, I worked at that unit, but I also wanted the treatment option that would give me the best quality of life because I wanted to continue working and I wanted to continue doing my volunteering and helping to educate the renal community. So I did home hemo, and I felt amazing. I mean, I did in-center while I was training, and I thought I felt really, really good. But then when I did home hemo, I was amazed at the difference and how much better I felt doing daily dialysis.
I had dialysis at the clinic for 3 years. And then there I went 3 days a week. And when I come home right after dialysis, I was completely washed out and I had to sleep the rest of the day. We do it at our home. I have all the equipment there, and I do it 5 days a week for about 2.5 to 2 hours for 45 minutes a day.
You know, when you look at it, you go, oh gosh, 5 or 6 days a week, what's the advantage to doing that? But the advantage was I could set my schedule how I wanted to do it. If I'd wanted to do 2 days and take a day off and then do 3 more days, or, you know, I could just rearrange my schedule however I wanted it. And if I had something planned, I could do my dialysis later, earlier, whatever.
I could do what I want to do, when I want to do it.
And he feels much better too, and his diet restrictions are not as strict as they were when he was in clinic.
Felt amazing. I mean, my labs were good, everything was really well. So that was one of the reasons that I chose that, just because I felt it was a better treatment option for me. It's not for everybody. No treatment option is for any one person. I just felt that that was the modality that I would have my best quality of life so I could continue working.
And I don't miss a treatment anytime.
That is true. If you're going to do home hemodialysis, you need to do it right.
Why did your healthcare provider recommend in-center hemodialysis?
Well, that's a good question. That's why I asked him, why did you want me to do hemo? When, as a nurse, I knew there were other avenues of dialysis. And he couldn't answer. It was like, that's what he was used to having patients do. So I kind of put him on the spot. So I says, well, are there other ways? Are there other modalities for dialysis? And that was a good conversation because there were other ones, and I just needed to know the advantages or disadvantages of the different ways of treating end-stage renal disease.
When I first started, it just seems like I went to the doctor who told me I had kidney failure, and I found myself up in the hospital, and it just seems like things happened. I wasn't given the option to, hemodialysis or PD. It just seems like they made the decisions for me. I think it's very important for doctors to let patients know what their options are. And that ultimately, I feel that the patient is in charge of their own caregiver and is really responsible for what they do and what they don't do. So it's really up to the patient.
What is a fistula, and why did you choose it?
A fistula is a type of graft that is surgically done by a vascular surgeon. What it is your vein and your artery being fused together. It becomes a natural part of your body, and as it heals, in order to develop your fistula, you have to do a squeezing motion with like a tennis ball.
I had to pump my hand like this several times to increase the veins.
And your fistula continues to grow, your veins grow. This is what you use for hemodialysis, either home or in center.
I put the needle in here to the arterial access, and it comes out and goes into the machine and purifies his blood, and then it comes back and goes in here into the venous access and into his body.
Yes, it's not fun to have any kind of surgical procedure to have a fistula, but having those infections are really awful. And you get really sick, and the more they infect, the harder it is on your organs and on your veins and arteries to get another access placed. So a fistula is really important because that is actually the best access to have for hemodialysis. There's nothing artificial in your arm if you have a fistula. It's just a native vein and an artery sutured together. And so you don't have nobody puts a piece of something in you or does anything else. And so they clot less easily, and they do not get infected as easily either. And you feel much better with a fistula. You get better dialysis with a fistula.
Having a fistula is always better than using a graft because a fistula is your own veins, as to where a graft is material that they put in for your treatment. If you have a graft, you can receive clots, you can receive aneurysms that occur, so it's usually better if you can get a fistula than a graft. But of course, that would be up to your medical physician.
For me, the central line was not the greatest. When it comes to having a fistula, I was ready to have the central line out, but also I can have a better dialysis treatment.
How can I tell if my fistula is getting the proper flow?
Your nurse or your doctor or yourself can have a stethoscope and you listen, and they can tell by the sound that your fistula makes. As well as you can put your 2 fingers down by the surgical site, you should feel a throb. There's a strong flow. If you do not feel a strong flow, if you don't feel the throb, then you know that your fistula is not working properly. If you do not feel your throb and you do not feel that you don't see your veins protruding like if they should, then you need to go and get your fistula checked out. They check there's a lot of equipment they use to check the flow of blood, and the things that causes your fistula to clot is either scarring from needles not being properly inserted, or you laying on your arm while your fistula is developing, which also causes it to collapse, and you're not properly caring for your fistula as you should, doing what the doctor recommends. But these things can be helped if they're caught soon enough. They have equipment that goes into your vein to widen and to remove different elements that will help your flow.
Can you explain peritoneal dialysis, PD?
So I do the manual type of PD, and today, because I had to be here all day, I brought my IV pole, and this is pretty much a cooler, which is insulated, but what PD involves is a bag of fluid. It's about 2 liters, and it's specific for the size of the patient. As you can tell, I'm a smaller size, and so I just need to do one of these bags. And basically I have a catheter in my abdomen where I connect and I drain out all of the toxins into the drain bag that's provided in this kit, and then I fill up with the new, they call it sugar water, and it takes me only about 20 minutes. However, I do have to do this 4 times a day. But I bring it with me wherever I go. If I nanny, I brought it to concerts, and I just need a private area where there's no airflow. Like this vent is running now, I would have to turn down the thermostat so there's no airflow, because that prevents any bacteria of occurring.
The cycler is programmed. It's programmed to fill me up. It's programmed to leave the solution in for so many minutes, and it's programmed then to drain it out. A lot of people ask me, like, well, when you hook you up on the cycler, like, are you lying down or you sleep? No. I mean, sometimes I'm lying down, but sometimes I'm sitting in the chair just like this, reading, you know? And if I got the music on, then I'm up dancing all around and stuff, holding on to my extension and what have you. So I do my exercise as well, where I'm also hooked up on the cycler. When they finally released me from the hospital, I couldn't wait to get home. I went straight to my bedroom where my cycler is. I gave it a big kiss. I said, I'm so glad to see you. I missed you and I can't wait to get on you tonight. I do a total of 15 cycles. I have to be on that cycler for 9 hours, and it's okay.
Why did you choose the type of PD that you do?
I chose the PD option. It was after learning the 4 different options that were available to me, my doctor highly suggested, because I'm young and active and more of a night owl, and I don't like to be tied down, that this would be the better option for me.
I like my freedom. I can come and go as I please. I don't have to go to the dialysis center 3 times a week. I don't. So, like I said, as long as I'm on that cycler for 9 hours, I come and go as I please. And I could travel all over the world if I wanted to.
What are the limitations of a PD diet?
So I do kind of eat what I want, but I'm careful with that. I don't have as many restrictions as the patients that go into the center for hemodialysis. I have a little bit more freedom, but based on my labs, I'll kind of gauge, like, there are certain foods that we love and crave, and I will fulfill those cravings, but just very little. Like cheese is one of my challenges, and dairy.
There is a diet that we are supposed to follow, but I'm not going to lie to you. There are times when I renege, but I also tell the dietitian, because she knows, I mean, the blood work is going to tell off on me anyway. But when I'm sharing my story with the people, and I just tell them, I mean, I don't want my beans and collard greens cooked with no turkey leg. I want them cooked with a ham hock. But now, don't get me wrong, because, you know, I do this in moderation because I still got to watch the salt.
We have to watch, it's called the 3 Ps, phosphorus, potassium, and protein. If my potassium gets too high, then I just need to cut back on the pill or foods that have potassium in it, or if it gets too low. And why it's so critical is it can mess with your heart. And protein's important because that helps in red blood cells, fighting off infections. So that can be dangerous as well. Could get some sort of infection, like the common cold could last much, much longer. It could get, you know, turn into something a little bit more serious. So because when I do my treatments, a lot of protein comes out of me, I have to actually intake a lot more.